We're also going to teach them directly, teaching them through their workbook and through practice at home. They're going to learn which one is good, which one is bad, which one is something we want to be doing, and how we should look. So it's not so much that the teachers will say, please keep your back straight and please do this. But actually they're going to learn it as part of their regular lesson preparation. And then teachers are going to just facilitate and make sure that they're able to keep those skills. Finally, the last thing we talked about are 21st century skills. 21st century skills, there are a lot of them, but they're divided basically into ways of thinking, ways of working, tools for working, and living in a global society. We will cover this in greater detail later on this month. But what I'd like you to draw from it are the two things we're going to be talking about today in our counselings. Creativity and innovation, critical thinking, problem solving, development of metacognitive skills, and how to communicate and have teamwork with the students. Those parts are things we can highlight when we're talking about this in our actual counselings. The goal, however, is not just, they're going to learn metacognitive skills and processes. Might be a little challenging for the average layperson. As teachers, we understand this. As parents, might be a little harder to catch up on. So, we want to find ways to approach them. So, as we move forward with our counseling practice, I'd like you to take a look at a few questions. Number one, how do we relate the students' challenges to the Ocean textbooks? What parts of the Ocean textbooks really work with those skills? Number two, what parts of the textbooks are going to illustrate goals that we set for the future? A lot of parents aren't familiar with, or are vaguely familiar with the idea that the education system is changing. But to what degree and how and what they should plan, that's something we have to talk with them. Then finally, what are the differences between the current textbook and Ocean, and how do we make these differences clear during counseling? We don't want to just say, they will learn how to learn and have metacognitive skills, but we want to make students more independent so they can learn skills, they can learn by themselves, and learn with the teacher. Finding ways to talk about that will be very important. Any questions so far on Ocean? Okay, everyone looks like they're ready to go. That's good. All right, then let's move directly on. To the actual first part of today's study meeting. If you can open the page in packets, which I have not given you yet. Go ahead and run now. Okay, please take, sorry. Please take one and pass. 4. Please take one and pass. Do you have one copy for yourself? Okay, thank you. Okay, so if you can open to the very first page of your counseling, the very first page. This is on the back cover. And we're going to talk a little bit about self-study materials. So how many of you are familiar with the home study fair materials for the students? Okay, pretty familiar? How many of you have taken a chance to listen to them or read through them in detail? Good to see a few hands, that's good, that's good. So let's take a few minutes. You prepared one particular material that you're going to use in today's counseling. Let's take the time to look over the questions on that sheet and discuss as a group. So working here with a group of 4 and working here with a group of 5, please work and answer the questions for each of the materials that you have brought. If you want to look at some materials or you don't have one, we have all of the materials that we can offer in the back 2 tables, and also some CD players and extension cords if you'd like to listen to the information as well. Let's take a few minutes to do that.
Yep. And we're going.
Oh, okay, so wait, art, then resolution, wait, we're talking about art. our school is sort
material
of
that.
asking them to buy it, right now.
Yeah, ours is all, here's how to prep for English oceans right
BBL.
Yeah, we have to, we have to, but
now.
no,
Students are
we'll
doing
come down
now,
together,
so
right? Same materials.
Okay.
All of our students
Alright.
do phonics.
What does the student
Yeah,
get?
Alright.
What materials did we prepare for today? What materials did we prepare for each? All doing phonics. Okay, BBL, so we have phonics, BBL. Let's get maybe one or two more in there, so we have, let's do,
Word magic.
that's good. So then phonics, word magic, BBL,
Well,
and
it
let's
doesn't
add
matter if they
one
do
more to
phonics
this.
or word magic.
And I'll
or
help you if you
BBL,
have any
they have
questions.
CDs and books
And stickers.
and
Yeah.
stickers. BBL has no stickers though.
This guy right
They get
here,
a check sheet
superstars on
though.
this. So
that thing.
it's good to know, we want to look at some of these other ones because in order to help our students' individual skills and prepare them for oceans,
I give them out
we
when
want
they
to use a
finish.
skill that's going to
Also, my
relate
school
well to
does,
them and help
they
them
can
really
take
polish up some
check
of those
tests
skills
with
so they're
a
ready to hit
teacher.
the ground
It's like
running.
a special offer thing.
So let's look at all
Check
four of
tests.
these. If you have any questions, please ask myself or her.
I think you're supposed to be
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
about yours.
Well, we all brought.
Word magic, BBL,
Well, phonics is.
phonics,
Phonics.
And writing, I guess.
and listening, because you gotta listen to
You?
You should.
I've never actually listened to it, so.
Yeah, like for some of them, they ask you to, you say it with the CD. And listening, you listen and then write down which ones. And it's same thing for word magic, but word magic is for vocabulary. It just depends on what's the main focus level. BBL is for
Reading.
reading,
Reading, listening, speaking.
yeah,
We do comprehension questions on ours.
I have like
So
vocabulary.
this is just material.
My understanding is that they get a check test with the teacher and that they basically have to like be able to explain, not explain the whole story, but be able to
We hang
describe
out.
what's happening.
Yeah, we get.
Yeah, like be able to say what's happening, like kind of summarize.
So not necessarily to summarize, you may just have
The
some
phonics
students
book
making
stickers, check
sentences or
tests.
things they liked about the story. The main focus though, especially for early books, is phonics. Phonics is a big set for basically building blocks library from 0 to 4. And then as you move further up, it's more a vocabulary builder, as well as being able to sound out and use the words for speaking.
Word magic.
Some really tough words at the end, like number 7 or 8, I think pregnancy was in there as well. Some really next level vocabulary.
But how did they
books.
like learn that it's not like translated, right? So like how did
They have
know?
like they have like a check sheet that has like certain vocabulary words, and so with that check sheet, they have to be able to use those words at least in a
Dictionary, they
sentence.
can write the
Learn and understand them, be able to say them.
So the kids are essentially making
It's
their
the
own
same,
dictionary
this
with
is
a
kind of the
picture
same
and
basis for the reading section that we have for ocean. Students are kind of struggling with the reading, but using that to find those keywords and understanding what it's supposed to mean. So using the pictures, visual cues, and other skills like reading the sentences to find the information. And if all barring that, they can ask the teacher's information too.
Ask if you know some more animals or what's another thing you want to buy or something.
How did you? You know how we're that would do like.
When they all split it, they pay all students. Oh, I guess I would give word magic some time for aching.
I think it depends on the individual student.
Phonics,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mine are good students, and they've always done phonics.
Alright, so far.
Oh,
We're
but
on number 1.
Okay. So, any questions about those materials?
I'm not too familiar with super
Oh,
stuff.
super, that's okay, I can help out with some of that.
There's a classroom.
Yes, there is.
They
In
complain
between
that it
1
takes
and
a long
3
time. I
classes
don't know
that
how
the
long
students
So you
can
gotta
take.
listen to the
And
CD
practice
takes
the
you through
songs in
each
class.
part. So like
As well as
15,
15 minutes,
and a CD, which is
15,
back
20
in the
minutes.
depending, because then
The
you
book
gotta
also has
pause and
cards.
like write it out.
To a
some
kid
key
though, 15 to
vocabulary
20
that
minutes is
practice,
like an
so they can
eternity
use
when
it.
you're doing homework.
but the main
Yeah.
focus
And it
of
also
the
depends on
material
how
is
fast they're
definitely
writing, how
not
fast they understand, like, yeah. if-
But the more they work at it, the faster they'll get.
That's true. Take a look at
Yeah.
the very
You also
first
have kids that
at the
sit
cover,
down like 2 or
Sorry,
3
on the
minutes
cover.
at one go,
Yeah.
rather than doing it like once a week, which is the sort of
Right.
make aware. So that there are a number of reasons why it might.
This is why it's really useful for those lower level places like Harry and Isabel, because they're also learning phonemic awareness at the same time.
How many words can the kids learn or practice?
It's like 4 per section, isn't it?
Do you know where to find that information?
Yes.
Mhm.
This check says I use it, where is it? In the front. Yeah.
Yeah, look, here it shows all of the, all of
At my school,
the.
we only have level 2 and 4, so I was wondering if it would be possible if I
So
could
is that word magic right there?
a level
Yeah,
5.
So that one, there's.
Feel free,
there are-
there's a whole bunch in the back here actually.
Each
Oh, really?
lesson, each lesson
We have,
has-
I think we're missing number, I wanna say number 4, but we have pretty much
I have
everything else.
4.
So they're split up on 2 tables, and there are representative copies from lower and higher levels on both, so please take feel free to take a look.
So that's something you can.
Maybe this element of
So your kids will learn 72 words.
phonics in the word.
Outside
It is, and yeah, they'll also learn
Names.
some of these phonics.
Yeah, and applying the same phonics to different things.
This is especially, these materials are great for all levels, but for English, yellow and green at this point, you would want them to be using this. This is the time at school where they're hitting Romaji, and learning that there's an equivalent for Japanese sounds when writing in Japanese. And it easily gets confused with writing the actual phonic sounds in English. So you might see a person's name, but it's like this.
You have to,
Also,
you
oh
have to
yeah,
explain that Romaji is
kind of
Japanese.
helpful for
Yep.
starting to see awaken.
Yeah.
Very similar questions.
This is not a strange Italian dish, but it's actually the girl's name Shiori.
Or like, TI is
TI for
It's
chi,
not going to be the actual English sounds.
CYO for show.
Yeah, I spent 10 minutes in my trail class just teaching them how to spell my name.
Yeah, so that's something else you can help the parents understand. This is different from Romaji. If kids learn phonics, what else will they be able to do besides learning all of these? Sorry?
They'll be able to read.
Yeah, they'll be able to
And
read and spell better. And how about that metacognition part? Yeah, learn on their own. So if they see a word that they don't know, they just try to sound it out. That might help them get on the dictionary or work out how to spell it.
Because
I love it when the
Uh,
Japanese
rough-
kids are
rough
trying to spell out the English words in the
Right.
phrase. Like, it's my favorite thing in the world.
the story book for purple is a lot harder than this. So I was wondering like, what, how is this for Aiken level 4, like, because I wanna recommend both books ones too, but I've been struggling for a long time about what I should do level 4 and level
One is the pacing.
5. Okay.
Right, the pacing of the storybooks is
levels.
the entire year that you have the chance to read 4 stories.
I do
Just
too.
how much,
Yeah.
It's a much longer basis. 6 books in 3 months.
Oh,
So
yeah,
number
it
one,
takes me
pacing is
like
very
10 minutes to
different.
get through
And then number
everybody.
2, the skills that we're looking for are also
No, I
very
make sure
different.
they're
The
doing
storybooks
it.
in
Oh,
class
okay, now
are
they're like this.
Yeah,
listening
that's-
to and producing the sounds, so they're really good for phonics and they're really good for overall speaking practice. But when it comes to these, they'll be looking for vocabulary that they don't know, phrases that they're unfamiliar with, and engaging the
Yeah,
material
yeah.
without having supportive material behind it, and that kind of idea. So this is a bit more intense than the storybooks that
Sign
are
up to
and
check
over a
out
much younger time
extra money.
period.
How much more difficult is level 5?
Phonemic awareness.
Number 5 is not there.
No.
It's, 5 is the point where you start working a little less on just the phonics and really focusing on the vocabulary. So if your student is having trouble
I know
with
once they're
vocabulary
done,
and
it's also
phonics, you may not want to put them in a higher one first. Then maybe you guys would like to show them before.
Okay, so would you recommend level 5 for a student
I
who
sent it
is
out
not
long as
using
you
that
schedule
maybe?
was too far behind.
These kind of materials.
Handed out amount of
I
schedule.
don't think it's a
Another
bad
search
This is when you should
Well,
do
I
this.
think that we need to
This.
support them pretty well.
Back on
Because
track.
side advice as well.
Okay.
I had to have a little meeting with mom.
I think I heard some adults.
Some adults, it's kind of
One
addictive.
phonics?
Yeah,
I've never
but
seen
I don't know that that's the first thing I would recommend to adults. I would say, for example, your student that loves any songs, that Eon presents, so students that really like songs and might learn faster from that, or students that like games.
Yeah, games
So
too.
I
think about
noticed
the
the kids
students'
that
interests
can use
also,
them
that's,
will like
because
bring these
it's
words
something
into
interesting,
class,
more likely
like
to
it's
do
really
it
obvious. The
more
kids who
often
don't
and
and like go bring them into class and the kids
So
that don't.
think about the weaknesses, but also think about the character of the students.
Yeah.
How is it gonna interest
The
Well, like
them
bring in,
to
like, be
actually
like,
succeed and do
like
it?
an expansion to start using like nuts or something.
Oh, my kids who have
There's students
phonics
who
are
like learning
exponentially
new
better than
songs
kids that
or
don't.
games.
Yeah.
This is good
It's
color
very
recognition practice right
It's
here.
also nice, if you look at on the Chewy cabinet, you can find expansion ideas for the lessons, and most of them will have vocabulary lists that draw from phonics and word magic. So you can actually have them use them in class and support that.
Yeah, especially I want to learn more vocabulary.
I mean,
It's good.
it's not only
Students
just for
are
the
doing
kids that are
really
super
well
bright, but
because
also
they
for
can
the
learn
kids,
extra words.
you know, who are doing really well.
It can also
You
help
know, here's how you can
students
improve
who need extra.
Yeah, so wizards.
And
for
my
sure
kids that are
for
good with
phonics.
phonics study word magic, and then I have a kid who's
Word
doing
magic.
word magic, he does.
With reading becoming really important for oceans.
One of my kids.
I have a kid that does everything.
Big one for, physical
Orange.
science.
Oh,
He does everything.
Nice. I have a student that does everything.
You can't
Her
read,
mom
you're
buys
in
everything.
trouble.
Oh, yeah, no.
I recommend anything to buy it.
I talk to his mom every week.
I've got a student who does the 1-2 writing, and then after class I will write down the structures with during the class,
Oh,
and then she
nice.
will copy and do it.
Oh, that's good.
Besides
Yeah,
strengths and
there's-
weaknesses, is there
There's
anything else?
so many
that you're-
levels
when
you
you're-
could recommend it to any,
when you're
pretty much any
suggesting
student.
materials, or when you're recommending them, just in the way that you
extra reading
present them.
practice
Well, I've done a few, and like when I've
through
recommended phonics, I've said,
Yeah.
oh, well, this listening section is really good because
They go all the way up to level 9,
and
which is like
parents think
for
So besides just learning the words, they're also getting listening practice and
yeah.
stuff.
Some of the
so
vocabulary in level 9 is
ancillary
pretty next level.
targets that can help out with
Pregnancy.
I
yeah.
tell them that
Yeah,
they're
I think
in the
that's-
phonics,
it's a
that
really
phonics
tough
is
concept to
like gonna be their
explain,
foundation of their
quickly
English
in
skills,
English,
they're gonna learn
never
the
mind
individual
doing
letters,
it
the
to, let's
sounds
say,
they
a
make, and
children
that's
or
gonna
a
help their
student.
listening,
So
their
they may
reading,
not
and
even
their
have
understanding,
to
because then they're
run
gonna be able to start
over
sounding
that
out words
concept
themselves,
in their own
understanding the
language,
storybook better.
but never
So I
mind
use it as
a
kind of
separate
like a,
language like
this is
English.
where your,
it's like, what?
this is where it gonna start, it's like.
Do you think it's okay to point out to a parent that the kids who have phonics do better than the ones that don't have it?
I think that's okay, as long as you're not like telling them,
Number.
like explicitly, like your child is.
Yeah, he became
Like,
so much
he's
better
the
than your
worst
kid.
student. I think if you phrase it as like there's a very clear difference between students who do these regularly and students who don't. The
They
success
do
is much higher.
one lesson a week.
Each
Also
lesson
think
is
about
like
the
15 or 20
students,
minutes.
like, not just the students who have a weakness,
I mean,
but
it's like
students that are doing really well with something, or just building on a strength.
15 to
Yeah.
So what kinds of students that might be
Extra,
doing well would be
yeah.
interested in phonics or word
Maybe
magic
one
or
of these, like,
building blocks.
That's for both phonics.
The kids that are like can blow through my class really fast and are just like, give me new vocabulary. And it's like for them, it's like, here's the new vocabulary that you really want to learn.
So
I
also,
can't
I guess,
necessarily teach it to you in
extra
class
time to
because I
check
also have to
tests.
teach like 4 other students who are not as good as
I
you.
would, no, I
But
don't
here's
count
how
that.
you can learn
Don't
that
count
on your own,
tests.
and you can bring in words
Oh,
to be with
Yeah.
the check test
So kids
is
that are trying to
considered a
express
lesson.
themselves already and
Depends
asking
on
these
the
words
school,
or
and there's actually
trying
more
to
than
learn
one way
more,
to
those are
purchase
gonna be
like
trying to
phonics
experience
specifically
them.
for
What
check
about
tests or
like
without check
building
tests.
blocks?
So you want to check at your school
I think,
and find out which
Billy
one
North
is
Library
the
is
most
really
common
kids
one that's
who
done at your school.
wanna improve
and what you might
their
have to
like
do to follow.
reading and their
You
like
might have like a
fluency,
20
and
or
that they
30
can understand more
class
words
with
at a
students,
time, understand
practicing
like
that,
the
and then how
whole
to conduct it.
flow
And where
of
might you
stories
find
and things
the,
like that.
how would you conduct that
So
kind of test?
someone who like maybe taking a higher Aiken test would need to be able to read a whole passage and be able to understand
Generally
it.
speaking, you'll find it on the
Like
cabinet,
that.
or if you can't
Maybe
find
also
something,
kids
or
that
if
love those
your school
sources
would like
that
to
come
have
in and
something
they've
a
got
little
like
bit more
10
specific,
of
or a little bit more
things
tailored, you can check with
that
your head
they're
Yeah.
teacher or previous teachers,
Mm.
or of
Maybe
course
those
with
kids
one of
that
us.
really love
You can send us an email and ask some questions, we'll give you some advice on
to
it.
build their confidence even more.
And this is this is what's at your kids or slightly above your kids level. You don't have to think about it, here's the storybooks for you to read with your kids. So So you don't have to go out and search for English storybooks and
Actual
try to
check
figure
test
out on
doesn't
your
count.
own.
These are a good level for your child.
20 minutes.
Your child,
20 or 30
kind of familiar
Check test.
with how to practice.
Actual
these
check test
stories
as in
a
at
lesson,
home
so
or
it's
as a
gonna be
class?
too different from
We're just talking about extra study, how long?
Okay. Good question.
So think about what will,
10 minutes.
think not only
Assuming that the
this, but
students
like
are able to use
improving
CD
strong points
players
and
and know how to work them effectively without a lot of assistance, basically.
build
10
those strong
15
points
minutes
even higher
tops.
as well.
There's a lot of listening
Any
sessions
other
for the
materials
check test.
that you were interested
So,
in or that
That part goes pretty quickly.
that you haven't had as much opportunity to look at or consider?
If you're not sure, we don't have too much time left, but if you'd like to check, there is,
These.
the check tests are on the
Yeah, I've
exercise.
heard like a lot about
So
this.
you
None
can
of my
play
kids
that
do.
if you
I
like.
say, we don't really know.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not really
we-
sure about the
Because
level
you,
for them.
you have to have a class with that. There's a
Yeah,
class with that one.
There's a class with it.
It's optional though.
There, but parents can buy it to do with their kids at home. It's also okay, depends on what you're gonna set up at your school.
I don't know about
There's a
super
DVD.
stuff. Or-
There are different levels, this is level 1.
There was like 3 last year.
There's
50 minutes,
Listen to.
Star, PBL,
There's a car,
PBL study time.
There are some different games and other elements that come with it, so there are
What
some
do you find interesting?
cards, sometimes there's some other materials. And there are songs and there are like music videos that kids can sing along. It's really cute, they're really addictive. There's some special information for parents in Japanese so that they can understand.
I like this,
what's
you
going
know,
on.
word magic.
And
They can
explains
make
how
their
to
own,
play the game.
yeah, their own word bank. I like
that. And there are specific targets like
Yeah,
sky,
some interesting
buy,
topics,
like the eye sound.
especially in the higher
Laugh,
levels.
clap, so with the
Stranger
sound.
danger and all that kind of
Other
stuff.
little things. So, who would this be attracted to? Singing songs, learning phonics?
Friends.
Maybe friends, serious kids, so younger kids, any other,
Some red or orange students would still enjoy
maybe
it.
red and orange students would still enjoy it.
What are like the different
Frank
levels?
would love that.
Nice.
There's 3 levels.
Colorful.
The songs get to be a little bit
Simple.
more
Yeah.
complex, and you get different types of phonics.
Phonics,
The awards
You think about how our words.
Kids
love the stickers.
Yeah, the sticker, the purple
Yeah,
phonics.
yeah.
So that's good. Okay, I like that.
Totally combinations, triple letter combinations, and
the
like
super
I'm always
stuff.
interested
letters and
in
things like that.
Yeah.
So you get some different,
going on
some
now?
different elements.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
fall out
I
really
was doing one of those
it's
like,
like Israel,
stickers
but if you
made.
think
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it
yeah.
in ways that it's more sophisticated
One
or
for me, Japanese.
something like that, those are some of the differences.
I can also see if like, if it's a family that has multiple kids in a family, it's something you can buy and share with all the kids.
Yeah, all the kids can kind of do the
Songs
same.
and games.
Kids that really love to sing the songs in your lessons
Yeah.
are going to excel at this. No problem. If you have time in the car.
Or moms.
Yeah, mom that just wants the kids to sit down and do something while she's doing whatever mom needs to do. This you can put in a DVD player and the kids will walk down and like sing along
Alright,
and
I
watch
wanna
it for
check.
10 minutes and however long their attention span is. So that's a big part for mom. It's a big part for dad too.
Or the parents get to learn the songs
So
too.
take about 2 more minutes to finish up all those
So
questions.
this is also a very fun and fun material.
Yeah,
Some
word
schools have
magic
this
is
playing
one
on
of
a
the
TV
three
screen or
lessons.
like a computer in their lobby. And the teacher will then put some comments, so I don't know if that's how your school
Six,
wants to
yeah.
promote it. But it is a pretty simple.
Didn't we get a new one? All about the ABC or something?
There's a create, what is it? Are you
Funny
thinking about the
alphabet?
funny alphabet?
No, we have another one, right?
Phonics
Didn't we get a new
Chance.
one?
Phonics Chance.
Phonics Chance is also
No,
good.
no, no, we have a new one.
Okay.
We just got it.
Yeah, the topics.
It has like a, isn't it, do you have your self-study thing? I saw it.
Check test for DBL.
Kids one? This one, all about the
We do a
ABC.
different version at my school. Maybe it's an older one.
Take a look at this here.
We have an example of that one.
I don't believe we have. We don't have an example of this one today. You are right, this is here and covers kind of some similar skills to things like the funny alphabet world. It is
Yeah.
available, but we don't have one available here
We
today.
were wondering at my school like what the difference was.
You have to make sentences. use
This one I think
vocabulary.
focuses a lot more on the actual alphabet and writing them. So the activity is about the writing and making the letters. Whereas the phonics chants and funny alphabet world are more about finding the sounds that are associated with it. And almost all the alphabet materials are really focused on phonics or phonemic awareness.
So this would be for like, you're really low. Like, learning numbers.
I hesitate on recommending singing things to my
repetition practice.
Repetition
Don't like to
practice.
sing.
So yeah, exactly, for
Yeah.
students that don't like to sing, things like this would be a good way to help them out.
Yeah, a lot of my boys don't like to sing.
They are.
Yeah.
As we move further forward.
is always already over singing,
Yeah.
doesn't like to.
All that singing is baby stuff. This is also probably going to be more,
Yeah.
it's going to be worse if they have siblings, and the siblings are older.
Yeah.
Well, she
Well, I
doesn't
guess
sing
maybe
anymore, I don't want to
there's
sing
six
anymore, that's my
checklists.
mom,
There's
I'll do like that.
6 books.
Yeah, I noticed the ones that have younger siblings and they're the oldest are much more willing to sing because they sing for like baby siblings than the ones that have older siblings.
They've done it all.
Sorry to slow us down here, but are there any final questions on the materials that you've been reviewing so far?
They come in and just do it very quickly.
Okay.
Teacher, unless there's a special class, you know, there's a school that opened up and we'll go type of class. But that's not our regular.
If you haven't filled in all the responses, there are also a number of resources on the Chuba cabinet that you can access to find a lot of this information. The most important thing, however, is why we're going to be suggesting it during the counseling. Number one, it's important to edify yourself as much as possible because the more you know about the material, number one, the easier it is to actually recommend to a student. And number two, knowing what kinds of skills are worked on intimately is going to help you use this as a slingshot for a lot of your students in English Ocean. So word magic means you have to make a picture dictionary, which means you need to do the work by yourself, find the information, and make sure that you can have independent learners come out of it. So word magic will have the additional benefit of helping them foster some independent learning skills, even from a very early start. Using things like the songs or the DVDs, how is that going to help them move forward? If they're using Building Blocks Library, how does that relate to some skills that maybe they're having issues with, or some skills they really like, and to foster those even more as they move forward. The home study materials are going to be used to help our students get ready for next year's classes. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about what to suggest and what's important, not just the skills, but how it prepares them for next year. Any final questions? Okay, very nice. Please feel free to ask questions. But for now, let's move on. Please open in your packet to this sheet right here, the Kids Counseling Simulation Sheet. I think some of you have probably taken a look at this already, but let's take a few quick minutes to go over the different questions as we are preparing for our students. So please use the student that you talked about earlier as an example. And please go over the sheet to find out, are you ready for this? So let's try working again. We'll work this time in partners. So if you can work in pairs, we'll have pairs right here across the table, pairs right here across the table. Let's actually make a group of 3 here and work on answering those questions. And again, myself or Eric Sensei will circulate and answer any questions that you have.
Source information, their current progress record for
I
students
made
ready.
myself a chart for like, what are they going into next? Because a lot of them it's their first year, and I was like, you're on to what is your first time?
Are your students doing
Our
their
manager
homework?
got chart for us. Good.
About half of it.
Good man.
Okay.
No, I just have a post-it note.
This is for
that says-
everyone.
This is just
Their
for,
birthdays and this
yeah,
year,
okay,
their
so
it's
this
just-
grade,
yeah.
and their
Okay, it's
this
students.
class.
I'll be a little
I'm
confused on
slowly
that.
looking at it.
The next question is the section series.
So like, I write down their strengths, weaknesses, and then.
So the next class, all these kids this is the second home edition.
schedule school programs for swimming.
Second
Ooh.
edition.
No,
So like,
that is on the student and data.
showing them
We don't have
green,
that much
or if we're showing them green.
Oh, really?
No.
Are you talking about for the?
Are we sometimes
Are your
do?
students doing their homework?
Like you'll have like a mom says she does swimming class, like you're.
Some of them.
Yeah.
For the.
Yeah, for like, you know, when they say something, we really better make it go on. Like, we don't like
Yeah.
systematically
I
receive
picked
all of
Tell me
their.
all your
Yes, they
information.
do.
Yeah, like,
Like,
I don't have
Okay.
research.
Ask that counseling.
That's around,
Depending on, we're gonna find out some of that information.
Yeah.
We have
our
our first year grade.
115,
Yeah.
we're actually gonna go over how we
Like,
can get a lot of that information. So if you don't know right now, don't worry too much, just make a circle.
Right now is red,
Yeah.
Triangle.
sorry, orange,
Now, but
green,
you see goals,
Do you know about your students' goals and future dreams?
orange.
I know some of them.
Orange,
I know
green, and
they're-
purple. So if the kids
Go for which high
depending
school,
on where they
or
are,
which
Yeah,
junior high school they're
don't
in.
worry too much if you're missing to the next color.
I
So
know.
like blue.
That's okay, we're going to cover how we can approach that, with Gary and any brothers.
I just found out right now, brother, I'm actually teaching trailers.
Okay, I was showing the, should I put it
So,
next
yeah.
to a circle?
Good job.
Depends on the school year. So first grade students.
Wait,
will
yes,
be
I know.
Yes, I know.
I know she does.
I know she does. Okay.
Yeah, so she's here.
They would be doing
They
orange.
already take.
They already taken the sensory education, how do they do, no,
So it really depends on their
Mine
year.
at school.
We'll have to check when you're preparing for your
Never
midnight
seen
sheet.
them all.
What year is
Yeah.
are they
You're my
supposed to be going?
purple student,
Yeah.
I never met them.
I've only seen open.
do you know what the parents expect for their children's
So
campus
that's
education? Yes, I do.
If you look at,
I'm gonna put a circular chart in it.
Kind of
I'm supposed to
I
just
know.
check it if I just know it.
I think it's up to you.
and the older kids will be going to the next level.
I usually
Kids
tell
will
them
most
that's
likely
what elementary
be
school.
going to
No.
No, we're not really that day.
So they were doing.
But I don't think it actually has English in school yet.
Mine has mentioned
That first year,
there
green,
being an English teacher
yellow.
at her
Yeah,
school.
I
I
don't
don't
think
know
and the second
if
year would
she's,
go into.
if that's her teacher or like what they do.
That's something to take a look
Yeah,
at.
that's good.
Basically, on the computers, when you're looking at the SMS, you'll see next to their name, something that looks a little bit like this. This one right here being elementary school level. And then if they're at 2, 4, or 6, they're going to be changing their book levels. If they're at 1, 3, or 5, they'll be staying in the same basic grade. So orange will stay as red, green will stay as.
I don't.
Even numbers are.
Two students that just started,
Mine
I'm not
clicks
even
in
after
the
one
car.
meeting on.
My favorite student.
So that also goes for the middle
You know,
school second
each
years.
student has improved and also.
So if they
each-
go into wizard blue, that means they're going into ocean blue.
The only reason I know is they were came from last name.
Yeah,
All of your students.
Will there be two different types of
I got
ocean
12
blues?
left.
Like there's blue and purple?
90%.
He's got it.
That's something we'll have to confirm. Right now, I believe it's gonna run basically the color scheme right now.
Some of them.
Yeah.
I think that maybe that they're going to just be doing like blue, yellow.
As I
I don't
understand
feel
it,
like
they're
I
going
could
to be
explain
following the
it.
same color chart.
I have never taught
Right now, we
children.
have.
But I have Nene Ocean before.
I was gonna say, I'm usually and being English ocean,
It
so.
should be green,
Oh, no.
orange, green, and purple. Again, this isn't confirmed, but as I understand it, that's
Next
what
year's goal counseling sheet.
We have a big.
Oh, that, I have that. That's what.
Our manager said that the ocean blue kids are already kind of scared.
This is my first
Right?
time seeing that.
He's talking about explaining the textbook
So you will
because we
find this,
haven't really.
It's on the tube
Gone
packet.
through
So
it
if you
ourselves.
go on that into the kids section of your tube packet, you'll be able to pick up a lot of this information. And the school sheet is just highlighted as well. If you can't find it, let me know, I'll send an email with the actual
Think about
paper
those
to your
two
school.
I did this together with
Help the parents understand.
progress
that.
report.
Basically,
Okay.
not all skools are currently adopting this, so check with the
Okay.
manager and see what
Okay.
information. See if you're going to be using that in counseling. If you are using it in counseling, you want to ask how you're going to adopt it, and we'll go over when that's probably.
So they're going to be doing more presentations.
Thank you for being
Classes and stuff like that, like history, Japanese.
Got it, like what it is.
So the skills they learn
Okay.
through these lessons, like
Most
presentation,
electronics,
learning how to.
We already checked the time.
The other is kids study materials.
That's not ready yet.
Independent learners,
Yeah,
stuff like that,
it's
are gonna be
No, that's
thinking
not
for
ready
all
yet.
their other
Yeah.
We have,
classes as well. So this will be
it's
just
just made for
Oh,
us,
there's
but
only
it's,
one?
So
but I was
they'll
told
be
that
learning their English.
she's like, it's the pre-draft.
Be
Got
that
it,
picture
yeah.
of what's happening in elementary schools. Elementary schools are actually gonna be catching up to
You have a
beyond
meeting
schools.
with manager,
If you wanna think about
procedures
it
follow
that way,
after.
and what we're doing is helping our kids to be ahead and be
I haven't had a meeting with my board, but now I guess it's
Education
not
has
really
to happen by
that way.
2020. So we're thinking more like.
Very, very odd.
So instead of being like, oh yeah, they have to do this, like, so this is what they're gonna have to do in the future in school, so parents
Yeah,
can hear it all.
the transition is beginning right now, some schools are already starting to use this.
Absolutely.
We're going to begin learning and helping children.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
they should just have their
it'll be
own.
a different,
I don't have the
it looks like it's a lot more.
but yeah,
It's
I'm
really more sophisticated.
You're talking about
Yellow.
More sophisticated, but
You can take
the
that.
thing about it is that we're focusing on.
We're gonna influence like
Yeah.
a lot of different things. It's going to influence something like this vocabulary lesson.
This is the structure. Okay, now we're doing vocabulary again, now we're doing structure. And so it's being meted out over a period, rather than having us do like
That's more.
vocabulary instructions, vocabulary instructions, vocabulary instructions.
What I
Now
could
here's
do is
what
like,
you're gonna do.
I think you can do this because it means that you'll be able to maintain those kinds of skills as you move to your school.
Please check the smell of the class.
A little more practice on how to
really
This is a fun thing.
emotions.
In my classes, I've had a lot of supplies, that's how we
It's very limited,
It's also split.
listening's getting better. Your mom's like a little frustrated.
Have you talked to her?
Skip over that list, literacy part?
I taught one Bridges lesson because the other teacher was not doing
Oh.
That's literally the only
I think
Bridges
there's
lesson.
limited.
Got it,
So I
okay.
didn't
Yeah, I
even
don't
know.
even know the
Going to help
structure.
us
I don't know
parents
anything
understand
about
what their kids are going to be able to do and why we're offering the lesson. So
It's basically an adult.
different things depending on what the parents' concerns are in that area.
The stuff that the manager at my school takes care of.
Making
so-
them feel assured that information and supporting the kids.
About this, anything about the schedule, brothers and sisters taking the same classes, the manager always talks to the principal about it.
The parents are like, oh, so they have to talk about
You'll have to speak more, but you'll be more, you'll be more communicative.
Well, see, probably very little, because
About one more minute to put a bridge together. One more minute to bridges.
It's a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
It's gonna help them prepare for other higher level lessons in the future, so that it won't be as big of a jump, say, from elementary school.
This is yellow.
Lessons as well.
Yeah.
We had, I think, one